Hey you, what is up? This is Kazi from cleverprogrammer.com. Today I'm here with Brennan Dunn, and he's the founder of doubleyourfreelancing.com. And this guy, a lot of us on this channel want to learn about freelancing, and we're developers, and how can we actually increase our income. This is somebody who has helped many developers, and pretty much primarily mostly developers increase their income. So I thought it'd be great to just sit down and chat with Brennan Dunn. So thanks so much for being here, and welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
We have lots of Python developers, and we have people also in lots of different countries. Now, when people are trying to become developers, is there sometimes a common objection you hear with, oh, I'm in a different country, or there are people competing with us from a different market, so we can't really become developers, or how do we charge? How do you deal with that when people ask you those types of questions?
Yeah, so the question is...
And you can even hold this.
Okay, cool, yeah. So I mean, in terms of things like, oh, I'm in a certain country, or I want to work, like the typical one would be, I want to work with Americans, but I'm out of the US or something like that. How do I get American clients? And is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yes.
I mean, I think like I've both hired and worked with and helped a lot of people who are geographically not where their clients are. And I think the big concern, and I think, which is sometimes correct, is there's a cultural or language gap or something like that between them and their clients. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the best thing that you can do as a developer, doesn't matter where you're located, what framework or language you code in, or anything else like that, is the thing that helped me. So my backstory was I was freelance. I worked remotely. I've never really worked on site or anything for clients. It's always been remote.
Always been
remote. I've never done on site.
Great.
Which is a good thing, I think.
Yeah, that's great.
But
that's what a lot of our developers want to be able to do, work remotely.
Yeah. And typically, I mean, if you're doing like contract work, then you're on site, and you might be independent, but you're still kind of like, you're basically staff augmentation or something like that, right? You're in-house. So I think, I transitioned out of being freelance to owning an agency, and grew that agency to 11 employees. We did software development. That was our thing.
Great.
The thing that helped the most for us, because none of our clients were local. We were in the US, working primarily with US companies, but we worked with companies in Japan. We worked with companies in South America, and like pretty much all over. Yeah. But I think the thing that I think was most beneficial to us, to set us apart, was we were laser focused on on what is the problem that they're paying us to solve.
Yes.
Right. So instead of just saying, oh, I'm a good Python dev, oh, I know Django, I know this, that, or whatever, the clients that I think you typically want to get are the ones who might not even know what Python is, or might not care. They just want a problem fixed.
Yes.
So for us, we shifted away from, all right, so realizing no one's paying us tens of thousands of dollars for lines of code. They're paying us because they need something R&D'd. They need help with the research, even, and not just the development of certain products. They need help in figuring out how should this be built, why should it be built in a certain way, and so on. And we ended up not only being able to charge a lot more, and kind of being able to get to the point where we had this great profitable team and everything else, but we were able to really get away from marketing ourselves as a development shop, and instead focusing on, I mean, it sounds really enterprisey and kind of cringy, but as a solutions provider who we used, I know your audience is gonna hate this, we were a Ruby shop.
Nice.
But at the end of the day, we didn't describe ourselves as Ruby developers. We weren't, most of our clients didn't even know we used Rails, or what Rails was, or anything like that.
Got it. Okay, so that's fantastic. So one of the things that I got from that was focus on what their main problem is. It doesn't really matter.
That's why they're paying you.
Why are they paying you, right? Instead of like focusing on, oh, this is what I do, Python and Django, and then trying to look for that. Now, a lot of the people who are watching this channel are either beginners in coding, or that's most of the people watching. Then there's a segment who are developers but want to start freelancing. So what would be your advice on people getting their first, so let's speak to like beginners, and let's say if they want to get their first client.
Right.
If you had to go back in time, how would you approach your coding, like picking up the coding skills, and then at what point in time would you start going for clients, and how would you get that first client if you just had to reverse engineer that journey?
Yeah, good question. So with me, I started freelancing after I was already a senior developer, right? So I didn't need to both acquire skills on how to code while also acquire skills on how to freelance, right?
Yes.
So
Yep.
I think if I were to go wake up tomorrow, have no business, and not really great as a developer or even knowing how to code,
Yep.
I think in retrospect, what I would probably do would be to immerse myself as much as possible and I know this isn't always practical depending on where you live, but in the local business community.
Yeah.
Just keep my ear to the ground and listen to what they're up to, what do they do, and just be really interested in seeing what are they doing. Maybe they're doing a bunch of stuff with Excel and they're kind of hitting the upper limits of but maybe you're talking with people and they're using Excel and they're passing Excel spreadsheets around the office, and this is a core part of their internal workflow. And I might think, well, maybe I could just do something with Zapier or something, right?
Yeah,
I can make it so I can consult with them to say, let's use Google Sheets, and then we'll have Zapier that will pick up on row changes, and then when certain things are done, we maybe shoot off an email. Where there's a lot you can do nowadays, which was never, when I started out, none of this stuff was possible. That you can do with effectively off-the-shelf things that get you in the same programming mindset, right? Of even the stuff we're doing here at this conference, the automation stuff.
Yep.
I mean, you're doing if-else and segmentation. It's pretty much the same kind of mental stuff you're doing as a developer.
Yeah.
So I think it would help there, and then you can obviously get more into code and such as you need to. But if the goal is to make money with paying clients as quickly as possible, I would not personally try to dive headfirst into learning a whole giant Python framework or something day one.
Wow.
I would probably start with what can I do to deliver business value in a technical way that just might not be super technical, but at least is technical enough.
That's fascinating.
And I'd start with that and then probably go deeper. So.
Okay, so that's a really fascinating answer, because what I love about it is because what happens with people is they're often trying to tackle the complexity of learning how to code with the complexity of learning how to build a business at the same time. Yeah. I think both of those things are difficult when they're difficult on their own. Then they get very difficult if you're trying to do them both together, simultaneously. And what you're saying is, hey, break them apart a little bit. So do one thing first. So for example, in this case, maybe instead of just diving deep into Python and spending the next 6 months to 3 years and still not feeling like a good enough developer to be able to freelance, which is most people's story around it, you focus on going and keeping your ear to the local businesses and seeing if you can provide value in somewhat of a technical way. And it doesn't even have to be with Python. And what's funny that you say that is when I built my chess business a really long time ago, it was called Chesstastic, and I would find schools and I would go to them and I would offer them chess services. But how I would find these schools, because I was constantly finding myself Googling everything. And the Googling got really it was really laborious and but then I would always looking for certain criteria from these schools. They had to have, these libraries would have to have ages 8 through 11-year-olds, for me to be able to teach there. They should have these other recreational programs. Then I created an Excel sheet that would automatically do all this stuff.
So you're scraping these pages and pushing it in Excel.
Yep. And I didn't even know how to code at that point. So I was just using Excel functionalities, and then I got off of Excel until I literally maximized it. So I had to get off of it when it said NA or something, because I was getting throttled with the API and I didn't even know what that meant. So I hired a developer for that. So
what you learned doing that, you learned the mental stuff that would help you as a developer later on.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. So I learned so much of the stuff that would help me as a developer later on. So I think that what you're saying is really valuable to the viewers who are watching, because if they can right now focus more on the business side of things, doing things that are maybe more technical, for example, they can go to a place where there are a lot of old people who don't know how like to install an antivirus on their computer.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can help them, you can charge them, and then you can get more complex with it depending on what your skill level is. Maybe you can help businesses with more technical skills.
I've got an example that actually came from a local networking event I went to years ago, local to me in Virginia. And that was, I was doing the agency thing, and we were just networking and talking with people, and just as a bar, like drink up thing. It was after a meetup. And the guy was saying, I'm trying to, I have all these customers, and I want to find out, I want to get them all to be able to, fill out a quick little form thing, and then, pay me for, it was like a certification that he was selling. And then I want to be able to get all that into a spreadsheet. And he's like, so you guys are developers, can you build that for me? And, the coder in me was thinking, that's a lot of early developers start with CRUD apps, right? Create, retrieve, update, delete,
right.
Where it's basically forms and index lists, and, you're able to view that kind of stuff, right? Whereas in retrospect, if I could go back then and I wasn't having my like Rails coder hat on, I would have said like, use like Google Forms, use Zapier or something to push that into a Google Sheet, although that'll do it automatically with Google Forms. Push it into a spreadsheet, and then like have a way to then send out an automated email after they do that with like a link to PayPal or some dumb shit like that, right? That is really not sophisticated, but it solves that problem where the client in this case needs, this is what I need to get done, and they don't know. Like most people, you look out here in Boise, ask anyone like, do you know Zapier's a thing and that they can link all these different data things you do together? They're gonna say no. Like most business people don't know this stuff exists. So you just say, hey, I want to learn enough about what I can do with the tool like Zapier, an off-the-shelf tool, and I'm just going to glue things together and give them what they need, and then that'll at least fund you while you can then go and learn Python or learn whatever. And I mean, that's what I would do if I needed money and I wasn't technically skilled enough to be able to safely bring on a greenfield project and say, I'm going to code you a Python project from scratch.
Yes.
So that's what I would do.
Okay, so that's really great advice because people work backwards, which to them seems like the normal way, which is like go to college for 4 years, then go get your master's for like 2 to 4 years, then think about maybe contemplate getting a job, but probably still don't do that because that's crazy. And I feel like it's such a backwards approach. Where the job is the goal or being able to provide value is the goal, but that nobody spends time thinking about that most of the time.
Even great developers aren't even, I know really talented coders who do not ever think, how is the code I'm writing making an impact on the business that is using this code?
Wow.
A lot of them are just thinking, I'm building a really, they geek out on object-oriented coding and like test-driven development, and that's all good. Like I remember when we started getting heavily into TDD or test-driven development as an agency, I had clients who were trying to sell, and they were like, why should I pay you all this extra money so you can write these test things? Shouldn't your code work the first time, right? And it became difficult for us to like, how do we sell testing? But then,
what did you do?
Well, here's what I did, is I was talking to a friend of mine who was running also an agency, and he's like, sell it as insurance. Like the idea is a good test suite on a code base is going to be that canary in a coal mine if new features that you've developed broke something else. And the most expensive part of software development, which a lot of clients don't get, is the maintenance costs.
Wow.
The total cost of ownership is not always the building, it's the maintaining.
Wow.
So if you're adding new features and this is breaking that, that's like, not only does that cost a lot more in development time, but you've got, if it's in production, you've got customers using it who are getting error messages and this and that. And it's basically an insurance policy where you're saying we can safely and agilely develop new functionality in the future without needing to worry about. So basically you're buying insurance that will keep your long-term costs down. So we sold it like that.
Smart.
Instead of saying, we're going to spend twice as much time so we can write these tests that are, they're like, I get it. Why would clients are thinking, why can't you write code that works the first time, right? Because they don't know, and you can't blame them. It's just, I think a lot of us get kind of arrogant, and they're like, they should understand the value of testing, and they should know why we do object-oriented design, and why we do these, craftsmanship things. Like in the Ruby community, there's a big push on code craftsmanship, which is good, but I think people get so immersed in the...
code craftsmanship,
and I think it's I think the reason developers tend to sell themselves on, the technicals that's what it's comfortable, it's safe.
Yes.
That I've been doing coding for the last many years. I'm good at it. I'm not confident in my ability to help businesses, but I'm confident in my ability to write code.
Yeah.
So I'm going to focus just on the code stuff.
Yep.
And then they wonder, why am I being price shopped and why am I, struggling so much?
Yes.
And it's because if you can focus on what is my code doing? And it unfortunately becomes a thing where you need to realize, and this is, I think, hard for people to sometimes get, that no one cares about your code. No one cares about any of that. They just want the result.
Heartbreak.
Yeah, it is.
Heartbreak.
It is, if it's your craft. I mean, you want to talk designers.
Yeah.
When you tell designers about, no one cares about your design. They just want to know, how does this design increase conversions or whatever else.
Yeah.
They get very, sometimes, yeah.
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 Brilliant. And I love that, because eventually a lot of this stuff has to tie down to results. A lot of the people who are paying these developers are business owners.
Correct.
Who need some kind of return on their investment. But I feel that the developer who's competing and struggling with a developer in Pakistan or India or Bangladesh charging $7 an hour is because they're
Well, they're commoditizing it's, think of it like, so we're by a street, right? There's probably gas stations somewhere. Often gas stations, there's one across the street from the other, right?
Yep.
If this one's $20 a gallon and that one's $2, why would you ever go to the $20 one, right?
Yes.
And that's why, if you're selling yourself as a Python developer, and you're saying, I want $100 an hour to write Python code, and the client's like, but there's these guys over here who are $7 an hour to write Python code. Why should I pay you?
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you answer that, right? You're saying, I am selling a commodity, which is Python code.
Yes.
And then the client rightfully thinks, well, what's the going rate for Python code?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of when I don't do consulting anymore, but when I did, a lot of what I did would be going into people's email marketing automation stuff, writing a lot of JavaScript code and writing copy, email copy. But I didn't sell that. I sold how I'm going to help them onboard their clients better and sell more stuff and this and that.
Yeah.
But technically, I was writing a lot of JavaScript. I was doing some markup stuff on their site and some copywriting, and then gluing it together in an email marketing app. But I didn't sell. I wasn't saying. And a lot of it, if you the last one I did was $89,000 for something that took about 3 weeks, which the equivalent hourly rate of that is insane. And if they were thinking what's the going rate of a copywriter, but instead I positioned it as, we've talked through your numbers, I've seen your company, here's what I think you could be doing, and here's how I think it could make you, 6 figures plus within the first year. So then I come in and I bring in my price, and I'm an investment at that point. I'm showing you're spending this, but here's what you're going to be getting, because this is a gap in what you have set up. And I think getting confident in their people's abilities to be able to affect businesses that way, that's the struggle that I think people have.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And so if I want to, okay, I understand, maybe I'm a developer and watching this, or maybe I'm a beginner and wanting to get into freelancing watching this, and I'm going, okay, makes sense that I need to be able to position myself like an investment, show people there's a ROI correlated with what efforts I'm going to be bringing in. But now maybe they're thinking, what amount of time am I spending actually learning coding and increasing my coding skills versus learning business and marketing skills?
Yeah.
So how would that be broken up for somebody who's new?
Yeah, good question. So the balance of where do you spend your time?
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, I would treat both. I'm a coder by heart, but now I'm running a software company, all these other things, but I still code.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. It's therapeutic for me. I think a lot of people who are drawn into that still like it, right?
Yes, yeah.
So I think at the end of the day, the easy route with consulting would be to get subcontracted full-time through an agency. Let them get the clients, let them deal with the clients. You just sit at the coffee shop with your headphones on and write code. Yeah. That's the thing. But the problem then is they're not your clients, they're the agency's clients. Yeah. And everyone should be a business of one, regardless of what you do, I think. That should be the goal. So I think it's worth your while to always be thinking, well, why am I getting paid for this? Why are they paying me for this code? And getting better. And this doesn't mean you need to be full-on business consultant. Like, you can still be a developer who is just pragmatic and saying, look, I want to know why you're paying me and what do you need to get from me?
Yeah.
Like, what is the outcome, the business outcome you need?
Yeah.
Because the end goal might be, like, I remember one of my early consulting clients, they were hiring us to build a thing that would match make like bars and restaurants with musicians.
Okay.
Right? So like if you've got a bar or coffee shop and you want to have a guitarist playing music, it would be a way to do that, right? Like a marketplace.
Yeah.
And early on he was like, oh, well, what do marketplaces probably have? Because he'd seen ones online and he wanted private messaging and like groups and stuff. And I was like, at that point, I was like, look, what you need is validation that this works. Yeah. Right? Like, you don't have any users on your platform to message each other. So why do you want messaging day one? Yeah. So I was able to help I was able to reduce the scope early on and focus more on what should be built. Yeah. Because the client just thought, look, I have my ear, I'm reading Hacker News. I'm reading all this stuff about like startups that are failing and why they're failing and, what's doing well and these new frameworks coming out and, like the Heartbleed WordPress issue or what was anyway, like all these different things, right? That was, I think, with Nginx, but all these different things that the like majority of business owners don't know.
Right.
So just the fact that I have my ear to the ground in that sense is helpful to people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, my job is just to think, I want to always be making myself more valuable by getting better at coding. And a lot of getting better at coding comes with experience. Yeah. Obviously, that's the ultimate thing. But also learning new frameworks and seeing where the wind's blowing and seeing, oh, Laravel is a big thing. I should go maybe check that out or, this or that. So that should be something we're always doing, continuing education. But I think just the fact, the best business education I think you can get is to start just going to like you go to meetup.com, go find out where business owners congregate, whether it's Chamber of Commerce, like after party things that they do, or like the networking events at conferences like this.
And what do you think about if they just offered some advice for offered to help even for free in the start?
Yeah, I don't like giving anything of value away for free individually. I think it's fine at scale. So I don't mind, you could do like whether maybe you do a workshop, maybe you do some sort of digital thing, like my friend Amy Hoy did a thing on when Rails came out back in 2006 or 7, I think is when she did it. She did a free PDF about how the internals of Rails works, which is a graphical PDF thing, and she just learned this stuff through whatever. Look at people like Chris Coyer of CSS Tricks, right? Like anytime you Google anything CSS related, he pops up. But if you look at his backstory, he was teaching himself CSS and blogging about what he was learning.
Wow.
And that's how he came to be what he's doing now.
Yep.
So I think the best thing you could do would just be to, even if you don't have readers or you don't think you have readers or anything like that, just document yourself and put it online.
Yep.
Today I learned this, or I had a client and they asked about this, and here's what, and eventually you have this monster thing of content that ends up, making you authoritative to some people, and that's another great way to kind of become a premium consultant, is to build up an audience and do things like that.
I know Pat Flynn had this lead exam thing, before he started, and Nathan Barry.
That's what Nathan did. That's what we all do that. We all. Yep. Half of the reason I just gave a workshop here and was asked to speak here was because all I do is talk about what I'm doing on, what I'm learning and how this isn't working the way I thought it would, and this is what ended up working, and so on. Yeah. And, it's all this stuff didn't come overnight. It's just a culmination of learning in public.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So for a lot of the beginner developers or developers who are experienced, I think freelancing, it's a really good way to get into kind of the tips you shared. Like maybe even get in a non-technical way in the start, just so you can kind of get the freelancing skill down, the business skills down. Yeah, and you start really focusing on the value, right? Like, for example, I had this one student who joined our program at Profitable Programmer. He got a client to build their website, and then he's like trying to build her website, and he's spending so much time using it, trying to build it with Python and Django. And I asked him, like, what does she need? And he said, like, contact page and about me page. I'm like, why don't you just fucking use Squarespace? Yeah. And then he kind of got in a fight with me, almost, where he's like, well, that's what, Python and Django, and that's what the course was about. And I'm like, Who cares what the course was about? This is what you should do. It'll take you 5 minutes.
Yep. At the end of the day, Django and Squarespace are both emitting HTML, and Squarespace probably does it a bit easier and a bit. In this case, like you said, if they need a marketing site, they don't. There's nothing dynamic about it. Like, what do you need Python for?
Right.
You know? Like, there's nothing. You don't need a proper CMS in that sense.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I mean, you should still, like, if a client needs that genuinely, then by all means,
Yep. And I do think there's a bit of like having to detach, like, oh, because I'm learning the skill, it must be this way. Honestly, when I started freelancing, I started very early, like 3 to 6 months into my just picking up coding. I posted ads on Craigslist for tutoring. Somebody called me and they were like, we need a login system, authentication system, like blah, blah. They're like, can you do it? I'm like, I'm your fucking man. I had no idea what I was doing at that point. And that's when I actually started learning. And I went. So Pat Flynn was talking about JustinTime Learning. So that really resonated with me. And a lot of what you're talking about, it sounds like take the practical steps first, maybe even start earning an income first, and then, right? Okay. Now, for people who want to increase their freelancing rate, so people who want to be able to charge premium pricing, and since there are a lot of developers who aren't like freelancers yet, I think what would be a valuable perspective for them is how are you at some point able to charge more than, say, $35 an hour or $50 an hour or $150 an hour, so they could kind of visualize and see what that might look like. So starting today, they can start to frame themselves in that way.
Yeah, good question. So the easiest answer would be don't bill for time. I think that's the problem with billing for time is that you're ultimately reducing it down to how the sausage is made in the factory, right? Like it's ultimately, it's not focused on the outcome. It's focused on the time required to deliver an outcome. I always butcher there's this example people give of like some IBM consultant in the 50s who goes into this thing.
The hammer
hits the thing and he charges 50 grand.
Right.
And they're like, why are you charging so much money he's like, all the experience that went into knowing where to swing that hammer. Right. So
then Pablo Picasso, something like that too, where there's he throws his painting in the garbage or something. A lady comes and picks it up, and he asked her to pay for it, and she's like, you just threw it in the garbage or whatever. And she's like, I saw you. It took you only 1 minute. He said, no, it took me like 15 years.
Right. Exactly. So my condensed answer to this is always, I have kind of a process that I guess I teach where the first step is, I call it Socratic questioning, but it's basically just a way to find out why are you here? Like, so peel back the layers. So they come to you and they say they need a website built. All right, well, why do you need this website built? Well, the old website is not working. So they're firing the old website. Well, why are they firing it? Like, what specifically is making it not work? And what led them to this point where they woke up today and reached out to somebody like me? So try to figure out exactly what is the business case behind what they're bringing to the table. Because they're typically not bringing, unless they're coming to you as a consultant, they're coming and saying, I need a new website built, or I need an app built, or something like that. So if you can figure out why. And then I move into trying to, what I call quantifying the financial upside, which is, all right, so, if this does change, what effect would this have on your business? So the example I like to give is there was I'm probably going to scrub some of the numbers because it was a while back, but basically I had a student of mine who ended up selling a redesign for a rehab clinic.
Okay.
Right. So, he was thinking, all right, so how I'm going to sell them on a new website for this clinic. So designer developer. Okay. I think he was using an off-the-shelf template and just coding it all in WordPress or something.
Got it.
So what he did was he worked with them and started with, so tell me about your business. All right, you get people come in for like drug rehabilitation and so on. What is the value of a patient for you? So if you get somebody checks themselves in, what's that worth? And it was something like $30,000, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So then he kind of worked backward and said, well, I can't affect that. I can't help them with pricing that. So I need to kind of work backwards and find out where do I find an intersection with me? So then he asked, all right, so how do you get a new patient? And they're like, well, people call in or fill out our contact form. And what it was trying to get at is what percentage of people who do that turn into a patient.
Yes.
For them, it was 10%.
Wow.
So he's like, all right, so a lead is effectively worth $3,000, $3,000 for a lead, right? So then he drilled in further, and he basically said, so if the job of the website is not just to be a website, it's to generate leads that turn into $3,000 contacts.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my goal here, right? Is to help you. If I can get you one more lead a month, that's $36,000 net new revenue over the next year. And he focused on that. He
Wow.
focused entirely on that.
Wow, yes.
So what he ended up quoting them $20,000 for a 5-page website or something like that, which seems insane.
Yep.
But he anchored what he charged against that, and he wasn't selling a 5-page website. He was selling $3,000 a month in net new revenue.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So. I know a lot of people hear that, especially developer types. They're like, oh, that's cheating, that's bullshit, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, that's what the job of the website is, not just to throw another skin on something.
Yes.
It's to say they want a new website because they're hoping the website will get them more patients.
Yep.
So if I can figure out how that deal flow works,
Yep.
I can then sell to that and say, my job isn't to build you a new website. My job is to get you more leads.
Wow.
And focus on that.
Yep.
And that's what he ended up doing. And that's why everyone else is quoting much lower prices. Like the guy, it's funny.
Yep.
I give that story a lot. And years ago, I was doing my first video course.
Yeah.
And I just posted on Facebook, like, hey, I need, looking to do like a 4 or 5 hour video course. Anyone local? Do you know anyone local who does video editing and stuff and can come in and film it? I got all these local people who full-time day jobs and stuff. And they're like, yeah, I can edit stuff. I charge like $30 an hour to edit or whatever else.
Right.
And I was talking to all of them. And then I had a student of mine who had heard that I was looking to do a video course because I was tweeting it.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I want to come in and direct your next video course. And I want to tell you when you're going off on a tangent
Wow.
and when you're screwing up and all this stuff. My goal is to help you make it so your students are like, this was badass, and I'm going to tell everyone I can about this. And that, we're going to put together a badass trailer, and it's going to be like, you're going to get more sales, and you're going to get more referrals, and this and that. And I was like, this guy's speaking my language.
Wow.
Like, this is what I want to
love
hear.
that. Yes.
And I paid him $22,000 for a video course, which at $30 an hour for however many hours of editing would have been a lot cheaper had I just said, I need somebody to come in and just sit in front of me with a camera and then go to, Premiere and edit it for a bunch or, whatever. With him, he's saying, I'm doing all that, but my job is to help you make an amazing product,
Wow.
not just edit video.
Yeah.
So I think that's an example of where that's what I want to hear, because to me, he's low risk.
Yeah.
I don't need to worry that I'm going to make a stupid video course that doesn't make any sense to people,
Yeah.
and I go and I ramble and this and that.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to keep you from yourself, protect you from yourself by making sure you build the right thing.
Yes.
And I paid him. I didn't even flinch. It was like this.
That's incredible.
He knew. He's like, so what are you going to be charging for the course? And I told him, and he's like, all right, so you only need 40 new sales to make this worthwhile.
Yes.
So.
That makes it really simple for you.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
And now you are a founder of a SaaS company.
Yes.
So now this is something that a lot of developers want to be able to do. It's their dream to be able to build their own software as a service company, build their own product, and be able to actually sell it. So this must be one really amazing experience for you to actually build it out. But how did you build it, and how do you market this now?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the SaaS is called Right Message, which is just website personalization and conversion software.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about the backstory is, remember I mentioned I build in the public. I learn in public.
Yeah.
So I was learning about, at the time I was using Drip, I was learning about what I can do with it for email marketing and so on. I'm using ConvertKit now, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
But what I did was, I didn't say, I want to build software. I was doing it for myself with custom code on my own site. It was kind of working, right? And I was tweeting about it. I was sharing it on public, in blog posts and so on.
Yeah.
I was talking about it with just friends of mine and so on and so forth. Eventually, that got some companies saying, hey, I'd love to talk to you about doing that for us. So I mentioned I don't do consulting anymore, but I was a few years back doing consulting on a limited scale to say, I want to see if what worked for me worked for others.
Yeah.
This stuff that I covered today.
Yeah.
So I had about 10 clients over the span of about a year and a half who I did this with. I individually sold them on personalization, right? I sold them on that.
Yeah.
That led to a video course that I did. So I got people who were seeing that I was doing this, and they were like, can't afford you as a consultant, but can we, do you have any thoughts about teaching me how to do this kind of stuff? So I did a video course called Mastering Drip, which is on automation and personalization.
I have that course actually.
So I did that, right? And then from that, the biggest complaint there was, all right, I get all this, but I'm a marketer, and like, you gave me some sample code, but what do I do with this sample code, right? So that's like, Right Message or my software product didn't come out of a vacuum. And instead it came from doing a lot of consulting around the same problem where I was selling it in a high touch way. And then I moved low touch with the video course where now I'm selling the same outcome or similar outcome. Learn it versus I'll do it for you. But I did that a bunch of times and sold a few hundred copies of that. And then that finally gave me the confidence to say, it is worthwhile building up a team, writing a lot of code, and making it so I would not have, because the mistake I made was I had a SaaS before this that I started in 2011 called PlanScope, which is a project management tool.
Got it.
That was built for freelancers and agencies because I ran an agency and I hated the tools I used. So I did what most agency owners eventually do, and they write their own tool. But I jumped straight into software and didn't think about how I'd sell it. And it just pewtered along and never did well. I think at the most it did, I think, $4,000 or $5,000 a month in revenue. But that was, I sold it in 2016, but I started in 2011, and 5 years in, it was only doing $4 or $5 grand a month.
Wow.
So, the mistake I made there was I wasn't focused with what I'm doing now. I focused on selling in a high-priced consulting engagement the same outcome that my $79 a month SaaS delivers.
Wow.
It's the same outcome. I was selling it in a very, we'll do it for you. I'll do it all for you. I'm a consultant. I'll do it for you. I'll write the code. I'll think through your segmentation and all this stuff. And then I shifted to, I'll teach you how to do this yourself because I have experience. I've done this for 10 different companies now. I've been around the block in that sense, and I can teach you how you should do this yourself. And then it turned into, I want to build software that will do this with you.
Got it.
So kind of covered that full spectrum.
Okay, that's incredible. So that's a lot of, so basically we went from beginner, where they should invest their time. So if you're a complete beginner, actually start off maybe doing business stuff, learning about local businesses, and focusing even on earning the income first and figuring out those skills, and then jumping deeper and deeper into more technical coding. In order to be able to increase your income, to be able to charge a higher price, you have to come off as investment. You have to be as investment. There should be an ROI on you. So, and not focusing so much on our own features and what kind of tools and bells and whistles we can provide. And we even touch based on building a SaaS or being able to market it, which I think for most people, that's something they aspire to do eventually. I mean, I know we have few people who actually have a SaaS, who are doing really great with it, but that's a lot fewer of the people. But that's just something that I think a lot of developers want to think about, and I think if they can think of it in terms of how can we provide value and reverse engineer it like you did, I think then it's much more likely to be successful. I think that's why ConvertKit has been successful, and they're doing $16 million a year, and I think that's why Right Message is getting so much. I think a lot of people are jumping on it because you're providing a lot of value, and there's a lot of human touch in there too. Right? You are personally jumping in and helping a lot of people. I think that's what ConvertKit did really well.
It did early on. It won't be a long-term thing, but you need to do the things that don't scale. Paul Graham says, do the things that don't scale at first, which is what you should be doing.
And even Gary Vee says that. He says scale the unscalable, actually a lot. So I think that is really important. I think developers sometimes even try to run away from human stuff.
Well, people want to have they want to have their app that they build with the little sign-up page, and they want to just wake up and have people paying for it that are paying so they can just code on it all day. And they don't want to talk to anyone. And unfortunately, if you want to do it right, you need to start with this dialogue before you can turn it into a monologue. So, and that's a safer approach. I was your quintessential typical developer who was like, I want to get out of consulting. I'm sick of clients. I want to just build an app, and I just want to sit back and code on my app all day and get to play with cool frameworks. And that's why that business kind of failed.
Yeah. So I love that. And this is a much more of a risk-free approach because you're building things, you're reverse engineering. So you kind of know it's going to be profitable or successful before you even do it. But, you know, it's not a quick thing. It does take a long time. So I think that developing your skills as a developer, being in the market for a while, being a consultant, and really getting those skills down, and then eventually building and multiple software as service type of businesses to finally get to the point where you are at,
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Brennan. This was awesome. Guys, I've been following Brennan's material actually since 2016. I've learned a lot from him personally. I learned a lot from Double Your Freelancing Rate. And I think that if you are following me and you are a freelancer and you want to be able to increase your income, you definitely want to go to doubleyourfreelancingrate.com.
Doubleyourfreelancing.com.
Doubleyourfreelancing.com.
I have a redirect though, but yeah, the main website's doubleyourfreelancing.
Okay, so doubleyourfreelancing.com. Go there, check out some of his material. It's incredible. It's really going to help you to be able to charge what you're worth and charge higher premium pricing. And just want to say thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Any last words?
No, I just hopefully it's been helpful. And yeah, I mean, reach out on Twitter. I'm Brennan Dunn if you want to say hi or just have any questions.
Yep, so reach out on Twitter. I'm sure he'll reply back to you. With that said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This is Kazi. This is Brennan. We love your face. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.
Going all day.